You know that feeling when you pick up a book and it just clicks, hooks you right from the first chapter and you can't put it down? That's exactly what we're aiming for with your kid. But finding that just right book for your reluctant reader can feel downright impossible, especially when they push back on every book you suggest, or worse, refuse to read at all. In this episode, we're tackling the art of picking their just right book, from understanding your child's interests to giving them the freedom to choose. We'll explore practical tips for matching books to their level and strategies to help them branch out into new genres without any added pressure. Sound good? Let's get started. So, why does finding the just right book matter so much? The wrong book can feel like a chore, turning kids off reading altogether. But the right book? It can spark their curiosity, ignite a love of reading, and leave them asking for more. When kids have positive reading experiences, it motivates them to keep coming back to books, and there's a real science behind it. Reading something you enjoy strengthens memory and improves vocabulary and grammar retention. These benefits go beyond reading. A stronger vocabulary and critical thinking skills help kids excel in all areas of learning. It's not just about the skills, though. Finding the right book builds independence, boosts self esteem, and creates opportunities for meaningful conversations about their choices. It also helps them discover their tastes, think critically about what they enjoy, and develop a lifelong love of reading for pleasure or purpose. For me, it was the Hunger Games series. When I was pregnant with JD, my oldest, that series completely reignited my passion for reading. I went on to devour the Divergent series after that. There was just something about those dystopian novels that hooked me. So, how do we figure out what that just right book might be for our kids? It starts with understanding their unique interests. Kids naturally gravitate towards books that reflect their hobbies, favorite characters, or topics they're already excited about. When they see themselves or their passions in a story, it makes reading relatable and fun. Relating to a book's character or plot can even help build empathy and social skills, which is such a bonus. Have you ever noticed when you're put on the spot and asked what they like, your mind suddenly goes blank? Maybe it's just me. Either way, here are a few ideas to help you uncover your child's interests. I want you to create an idea web. Start with their top interest in the middle, like dinosaurs or unicorns, and then I want you to branch out to related topics like dragons and reptiles or Pegasus and horses. You can jot it down or even sketch it out, whatever helps jog your memory. The great thing about this approach is how it can spark new ideas that you might not have thought of in passing. And it's a fun way to dive deeper into your child's interests. If you get them involved in the brainstorming session, you might even pique their curiosity on a new topic along the way. You can also observe them during playtime and screen time. Notice if there's any reoccurring themes in their games, toys, favorite TV shows, or movies. You can also discuss choices with them. If you happen to catch them eyeing a book or, dare I say, reading one, ask them what drew them to it. But keep it casual, though. You don't want to go full on interviewer. You can also think outside the box. Reading doesn't have to mean traditional books. Comics, graphic novels, joke books, magazines, or even audiobooks are great options for getting their foot in the door. So here's what I want you to do. Once you've done all this, I want you to jot down 2 or 3 of your child's favorite interests and use those as a starting point for book selection. Once you've zeroed in on what excites your child, the next step is to find books that meet them where they are, books that match their skill level so they can build their confidence. A just right book is one that challenges your child enough to grow their skills, but isn't so difficult that it becomes frustrating. Reading at the right level builds confidence and keeps their experience enjoyable. So here are some tips to figure out that sweet spot. I love the 5-finger rule. Have your child sit down, read a page aloud. If they struggle with 5 or more words, it's likely too challenging for them to be using for independent reading, but it could be a great choice for you to read together. You can also preview the book. Check for text size, sentence length, and pictures to ensure it matches their comfort level. You can also consider their mood. Some days they might want something light and fun. Other days they might be up for more of a stretch. You really just kind of got to read the moment. You can also adapt the format. If they're drawn to harder books, try reading together or using audiobooks if you're not always available. Definitely lean into book series. Series can help keep the momentum going, as kids already know the style and characters. Perfect example, my oldest, JD, loves the I Survived series. It's been a game changer for us. The other night after I finished reading 2 chapters before bedtime, he begged for a third. I told him I'd only agree if he read it, and he did. It was a huge win for a kid who struggled with reading confidence, despite being an excellent reader. No joke, his decoding skills are far better than mine. Honestly, this wouldn't have happened if I'd handed him a random book. It just goes to show you the power of finding their just right book and finding them over and over again. Or, in this case, a binge-worthy series. Now that we've covered interests and skill levels, let's talk about gently encouraging them to branch out into new genres and topics without making the reading feel forced. Exposure to different genres and topics broadens their horizons and creates more opportunities to find their just right books. Here's how to make branching out feel seamless. I want you to start small. Use the idea web you created earlier. If they love dinosaurs, try dragons or reptiles. If they're into nonfiction, suggest a fiction story with dinosaurs in it. Pair books with experiences. Match books with outings or activities. For your dino lover, plan a trip to the Natural History Museum and get them a new dino themed book while you're there. And maybe throw in a fun excavation kit or a cute dinosaur plushie. I apologize in advance for all the dino references you'll likely hear across the podcast. As a mom of two boys, this is 100% in my wheelhouse. I'll do my best to change it up when I can. So, I want you to choose one bridge book related to your child's favorite topic and present it in a way that feels exciting. For example, that extra activity, that outing, a fun plushie, whatever it is that you can just enhance that moment with. Finally, let's talk about the ultimate game changer, giving your child the freedom to choose their own books. Giving kids the freedom to choose their own books builds independence and shows them that reading is something they get to do, not something they have to do. Saying yes as often as possible helps reinforce the positive reading experiences. And allowing them to choose their books gives them a sense of ownership over their reading journey. Not to mention, they are way more likely to engage with books they've chosen themselves. Our first two trips to the library weren't exactly what I'd consider successes. I let the boys do most of the picking, and of course, I throw in a few suggested books there as well. Some of the ones I chose didn't land as well as I would have liked. And naturally, both boys chose books that were well beyond their reading level. And yeah, some were too simple, but they enjoyed them, and that's what really mattered. It wasn't until our third or fourth trip that we really started to nail it. JD discovered the graphic novels section and even picked a few books from the Captain Underpants series. Cringe. Not a favorite of mine, but hey, if he likes them, what the heck. Graphic novels don't really lend themselves well to read aloud, so these weren't books we could share together. But that's exactly the point. For him, it led to more independent reading, which was a big win in my book. As you can see, we encountered our fair share of concerns. Here are some suggestions for how you can navigate the most common ones. If a book includes content that isn't age appropriate, gently redirect them to a better option. Or, depending on the topic and your comfort level, use it as an opportunity for conversation to help them understand. Lately with JD, topics like death and war and even who Hitler and the Nazis were have come up in discussion. My dad, husband, and I are fairly decent history buffs, so we didn't mind building on what he's already learned in school, to give the books that we're reading more context and present it in a way that felt more child-friendly. It's totally okay, though, to skip a book or a passage, or to simplify explanations if it doesn't feel right for your family yet. What's important is creating a space for open conversations. Now, what do we do if a book is too difficult for them to read independently? In this case, you pretty much have two options. Either you or someone else can read it with them, or you can pair it with the audiobook version so they still enjoy the story as they flip through the pages. I would say putting it back on the shelf should be your last resort, because if they're interested, it's a win. On the other hand, what if they choose a book that's not challenging enough? In this scenario, I'd like to remind you that reading for fun is just as important as reading to grow. Besides, haven't you enjoyed experiencing books with your kid that you read when you were a child? I've noticed that some include subtle nuances that I missed when reading as a kid, like those bits in Disney movies that they really throw in just for the parents' benefit. We'll leave it at that for now, but I'll likely have an entire episode at some point on this topic of never being too old for picture books. Obviously, I'm a big promoter of trips to the library to expose kids to a wide range of books, mostly for its budget-friendly appeal. However, there's something special about a trip to the bookstore and letting them select their own brand new books. You can even make it a treat by grabbing a snack at a nearby cafe, or letting them pick a fun bookmark to go with their new book. That said, I recommend waiting until they've refined their book choosing skills, otherwise you might find yourself with an unhappy customer when you get home. The library is a great opportunity for you to teach them how to browse through their books and really get a sense for them before even taking them home. Teaching them how to spot those books that are well beyond their comfort level and the ones that maybe aren't as intriguing as their cover makes them seem. But I completely understand if a trip to the library or bookstore seems too daunting for you to tackle, in which case I'd recommend curating a home library with books you think they're more likely to gravitate towards. You could make a trip to the library by yourself to select these books and then keep them in a special basket. The bonus of getting these books from the library is it will ensure that you swap these books out often, since most libraries only allow you to check out books for 2 to 3 weeks. Bottom line, finding the just right book isn't about perfection. It's about building a connection between your young reader and the stories that excite them. By focusing on their interests and matching books to their reading level, and giving them the freedom to choose, you're setting the stage not only for a lifelong love of reading, but learning too. Take it one book at a time, celebrate their choices, and remember changes won't happen overnight. But each positive reading experience takes them a step in the right direction. That's why reading is a journey, not a race. Speaking of reading being a journey, so is keeping your home library exciting. In next week's episode, we'll take a deeper look at how book rotation using seasons, themes, and holidays can keep things fresh. With spring break just around the corner, it's the perfect time to refresh your home library and create a buzz around reading. I'll share practical tips to make these rotations fun and easy. You don't want to miss it.